On the local front, on November the 18th, a South Bronx Organizing Summit. Well, it's going to be on child poverty, and it's going to take place, and you don't want to miss it. Joining us with more information, we have Eddie Borges, visiting fellow, Metropolitan College of New York. We welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, there's a lot of things happening in New York City with your program and everything, but first tell us about your program and a little bit about you.
Well, I've been a reporter in New York City for over 30 years. I started my career at the Daily News, the Village Voice, a short time in the Miami Herald, but the issue I've covered is the politics of the culture of poverty. And as you know, people talk about it all the time. And South Bronx is home of the richest sports franchise in the country and the poorest congressional district in the U.S. since the 1950s. And underlying all the problems we face in the South Bronx is this childhood poverty. And we were hoping, and we need to focus on that issue to try to fix it.
It's a disease. So at this summer, what will people learn?
Well, we have the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, Dr. Bernard Dreyer, who he's been head of the emergency room in Bellevue for many years, talking about, if we, children who are born, live and die in this concentrated poverty are unlikely to ever develop the emotional, cognitive, and social capacity to rise out of it. So we really need to work on those early years to really help them get out of that.
And when did this start?
Well, I've been thinking about putting this together for a while. I started organizing this about a month and a half ago, actually, before the election. And because the hope was in a Hillary Clinton presidency, we could really expand services in a big way that we need. More more Head Start, more child care, more healthy family programs.
So has the election of Donald Trump changed the agenda?
Well, Wednesday, just like a lot of people, I had a major stress headache. But by the next day, it was kind of what can we do with, and the thing is, we're trying to figure, our new agenda is we have to identify what programs we have in the Bronx and in New York City that we need to protect. Just like we need to protect our rights, we need to protect programs and services, and by organizing, we want to connect what we're doing in the Bronx with the marches we had in the city this past weekend.
So you don't think you'll get the funding necessary? You have the funding for the year moving forward.
We have the first year because the federal budget cycle ends starts in the middle of the year. So we're good through June. But then once the Trump administration puts together their budget, we're going to be in trouble. It's like when I was an official in the Spitzer administration and we had the fiscal, the bubble broke on the housing. And when I was at state agency, we were looking under rocks to pay for child care programs. Counties were cutting sanitation services. We're going to be in trouble.
So you think that really that's going to take place? The funding will no longer exist?
They're already talking about tax cuts. And what are they going to cut? They're not going, they're going to cut the programs that the people in our neighborhoods need to survive. Not just to live, but to survive.
What can we do to continue your funding? I mean, there's community-based organizations and nonprofits. Well, can you tap into those?
I think we're in a better place in New York than other places. Our Constitution is pre-federal. It was made before the U.S. Constitution. And things like abortion are protected in New York in our Constitution. But we still get a large chunk of block grants from the federal government. And at least this is the first step in organizing. What do we need to protect? And set our priorities, then hit Albany, City Hall, Albany, and work with the legislators, get them motivated, and then figure out how to act within the administration. Because they haven't even really talked about agencies like HHS or education down in D.C. They're focused on the other agencies. But look at environment. He wants to hire a guy who doesn't believe in climate change. It's 2016. It could be 1950 in Washington.
So you're still traumatized, as a lot of other people are. What do you think people are going to learn about this summit? And do you think the people who are going to come will continue to embrace it and you'll get the funding needed to move forward?
I think so. There are things specifically we can do in New York. One of our priorities at the summit is to discuss raise the age. In New York State, we're one of two states in the country that prosecute 16 and 17-year-olds as adults. And so what we want to do is raise the age of criminal responsibility so that those kids can go into the juvenile justice system. Because the city, for example, has identified over $300 million they want to put into a facility in the South Bronx. So if we raise the age, that'll be $300 million we could put into services. So this is what it means to be creative. There's money here, we want to put it there, so we have to help the government see that better investments in the South Bronx will improve outcomes for children.
Okay, what's the date of the summit again?
Friday, November 18th at Metropolitan College, the hub at MCNY.
And what are people going to learn?
They're going to hear from Dr. Dreyer. They're going to hear from some of the top community advocates in the city of New York in what programs we need to prioritize in New York City, and then what role, more importantly, what role they can play to protect and make their community stronger.
I like it. All right.
Thank you very much.
And you just put all of this together?
I've been doing this for, I'm motivated.
You're motivated.
I've always put things together kind of quickly. It was like you. I was in news. It's just like we don't have time to fool around. We got deadlines. Crime happens early in the day. We got to file by 5 o'clock. It's just like some people said, "Oh, we need months to put together a summit." I said, "What do you mean months? In college, I did this type of stuff in a week." So now I have more resources.
Yeah, and upon finding out that you have a president that is going to go in another direction, you had to try to scramble and find a way to meet another deadline.
Look how
in
many
another direction.
I've already gotten. Last night I was on the phone with people because after this I'm organizing a little meeting for people to meet the executive director at the New York Civil Liberties Union at the college. Metropolitan College is this new campus on 149th Street and Brook Avenue. It's the 3rd Avenue stop on the 2 and the 5, and they have a giant community room that they're offering free to community groups. So Don is going to be able to meet with people and talk to them about issues of concern.
Gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Eddie Borges. Give him a big hand, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Visiting fellow Metropolitan College of New York. One more time before we go, is there a number or website where we can go for more information?
There's a bit.ly. I think they're putting it on the Cryon, but you can also call me at 914-POVERTY.
914-POVERTY.
POVERTY. It's an easy number to remember.
Thank you, Eddie. I've got to take a quick break right here, but stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Open next.